Well, just a day after the president threatened to eliminate all the civilians in an entire civilization and then backed down and surrendered to Iran's demands, news came out about a military draft, a change in policy on the draft. U.S. plans to automatically register men for military draft eligibility. This is a report by the BBC, and let's take a look. Young Americans Young American men could automatically be automatically registered for eligibility for the military draft as soon as December, ending decades of self registration. So it sure would seem that there's a prepping, that there's a revving up for ground invasion and for the need to have a draft. Let's continue. The new rule proposed by a government agency would see men being registered automatically rather than being asked to do so themselves within 30 days of their 18th birthday. So I guess it was a requirement within 30 days of your 18th birthday to register, and so it's an automatic registration. But it's definitely quite something to have an automatic registration. As we'll go on, we'll see, you have to think about who's going to be automatically registered beyond those who are not automatically registered. Well, the ones who are easiest to register, the citizens of the United States, not the illegal aliens that are living here. So all of the non-citizen illegals certainly are not going to be automatically registered unless they're going to, I guess, unless they were able to get a driver's license and that causes them to be registered. I don't know, but let's continue reading a little bit more of the article. The new rule proposed by the government, I read that part, okay. Proponents of the plan say that automatic registrations will save the government millions of dollars that are spent every year reminding those eligible that registration is required by law for men between 18 and 25. The rule is still being reviewed and must be approved before implementation, though has prompted fears of mandatory U.S. conscription of the events in the event of a crisis, like the crisis that our president created right now. The last U.S. military draft took place in 1973 after years of massive public opposition during the Vietnam War. The government agency, the Selective Service System, submitted the proposal to the Office of Administrative Information and Regulatory Affairs on 30 of March, according to the office's website. Goes on to say a few more things. Let's just jump down here to one of my highlights. So, a vast majority of U.S. states and territories also automatically register men for selective service when driver's licenses are issued. Despite those rules, compliance fell to 81% in 2024, according to government data. The new change in favor of automatic registration was approved by Congress in December as part of the National Defense Authorization Act, which authorizes funding for the U.S. military and its operations around the globe. Pennsylvania Democratic Representative Chrissy Houlihan, who sponsored the language, was quoted as saying at the time that the move would allow the government to rededicate resources. Basically, that means money towards readiness and towards mobilization. Houlihan was quoted as saying by Military Times, rather than towards education and advertising campaigns driven to register people. The change, however, prompted fears among some Americans that the U.S. is moving towards a military draft if the war with Iran escalates or a crisis breaks out in the future. Well, the timing is pretty clear that that's what we're headed toward. So it sure would seem like that's absolutely what's going on here. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt directly addressed a question on the draft and possibility of U.S. troops on the ground in Iran during an interview with Fox News in early March. It's not part of the current plan right now, but the president, again wisely, keeps his options on the table. Leavitt responded, "There's no greater priority responsibility to this president than, of course, protecting the American people and protecting our troops." All right, might want to rethink that one. I don't think that's his top priority, since dropping a nuke on Iran would be the end of a civilization, absolutely, the end of America. A wartime draft has been implemented by the US government 6 times in the country's history. Most recently during the Vietnam War, approximately 1.8 million Americans were drafted during the war, which ultimately led to the creation of an all volunteer military in 1973. All right. Well, that's what we're looking at now. Very interesting. So, a draft is absolutely being prepped for. I mean, that is very clear and very obvious. And so, it's absolutely insane what our president is doing now. They absolutely need to invoke the 25th Amendment. I don't see it happening because the Republicans are under just this like it's a team sport. The whole thing is a team sport and complete allegiance to the president. There's no one that goes outside of the boundary lines. Very few people. So, what do you do with a madman now? He's absolutely a madman. Anyone that can see what he said, that he is calling for genocide, calling for the elimination of an entire civilization. I don't. An entire civilization will die tonight. Let's parse that out and tell you what he really meant by it. It really doesn't matter, you know. It really doesn't matter that the world knew that he was bluffing, that Iran knew that he was bluffing, that he knew that he was bluffing, that everyone in the world, ultimately knew. At the same time, everyone's like, yeah, but he might. Yeah, 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 but he actually, yeah, but he might. So, um, and he's locked up, as he said. Lock him up. Lock her up. He needs to say that to himself. Lock him up. Lock him up because he is not fit. He's completely unfit. Okay. Thanks for watching. If you like this content, like this channel, be sure to hit subscribe, like if you like content from. I'll be covering lots of different current events and trending topics and new channel, kind of trying to figure out what direction I'm going in. But a lot of things that are current events and approaching it from a logical, analytical, and theological perspective. So take a look down at the channel trailer to find out more. All right, we'll see you next time.